The elevator doors opened softly on the 12th floor of an apartment building in Seoul just before sunrise. A young mother stood quietly in the hallway, tying the shoelaces of her 6-year-old son while balancing a grocery bag against her knee. The boy looked sleepy, his small backpack nearly sliding off one shoulder, but when the elderly security guard bowed slightly toward them, the child immediately straightened himself and bowed back with both hands neatly at his sides. The mother did not praise him. She did not smile proudly or tell him, "Good job." She simply adjusted his jacket gently and continued walking beside him toward the cold morning street where children in yellow safety vests were already making their way to school alone. And if you had witnessed that moment in Korea, you might have felt the same strange curiosity many foreigners feel when they first spend time around Korean families. Why do so many Korean children appear emotionally restrained, socially aware, and deeply respectful without constant rewards, punishments, or loud discipline? Why does their behavior often feel less performative and more natural? The answer begins with a Korean idea that most Western cultures have almost forgotten: Nunchi, written in Hangul as Nunchi. Nun means eye. Tai means measure or calculation. Together, the word becomes I measure, the quiet ability to read what other people are feeling before they ever say it aloud. In Korea, children are not only taught to express themselves, they are taught to sense others, to notice tension in a room, to feel emotional atmosphere, to understand when someone is tired, uncomfortable, embarrassed, or hurt without needing explicit explanation. And this changes the entire emotional structure of childhood. In much of the Western world, modern parenting increasingly focuses on individual expression. Children are encouraged to verbalize every feeling immediately. Every discomfort becomes urgent. Every emotion demands attention. Parents are taught to center the child's internal experience constantly. But Korean parenting traditions often balance self-expression with social awareness, not suppression. Awareness. A Korean child learns very early that their behavior affects the emotional harmony around them. And because of that, emotional control becomes social intelligence rather than forced obedience. There is another Korean word connected deeply to this philosophy: Jeong. Jeong. Jeong is difficult to translate directly into English. The word carries meanings connected to affection, attachment, emotional bond, loyalty, and enduring care built slowly over time. Some Korean scholars trace its deeper roots to concepts of emotional connectedness that develop through shared daily life rather than dramatic emotional expression. In Korean families, love is often demonstrated less through verbal affirmation and more through consistent acts of care. Cut fruit left quietly beside you while studying late. A parent waiting awake until you return home safely. Grandparents wrapping extra food for your journey even after you insist you are full. This emotional atmosphere teaches children something subtle but powerful. Love is not always loud. Care does not always announce itself. And because affection is woven into ordinary routines, children often grow up with a stronger sense of emotional security than outsiders realize. Researchers at Seoul National University studying emotional bonding in East Asian households found that children raised in environments emphasizing relational awareness and collective harmony often demonstrated stronger long-term social sensitivity and emotional stability. The findings, discussed in the Asian Journal of Social Psychology, suggested that emotional attunement within families significantly shaped how children regulated behavior in group environments later in life. In other words, emotional intelligence was not taught through lectures. It was absorbed through atmosphere. And this atmosphere is something many modern households are slowly losing. Today, many parents are overwhelmed, distracted, financially anxious, constantly switching attention between phones, work notifications, social media, and household stress. Children absorb this emotional fragmentation even when adults think they are hiding it. A child can feel when the room is emotionally unstable. And when adults are chronically reactive, children become reactive too. Korean parenting philosophy traditionally places enormous importance on emotional composure in front of children, not perfection, composure. A mother may feel exhausted internally but still maintain a steady tone while serving dinner. A father may carry financial stress but still preserve calm routines at home. This does not mean emotions are fake. It means adults understand that emotional energy spreads socially. And modern psychology increasingly confirms this. Researchers from Yonsei University studying emotional contagion within families found that children mirrored the emotional regulation patterns of caregivers far more strongly than verbal instruction alone. Published in the Journal of Cross-Cultural Psychology, the study showed that repeated exposure to calm adult behavior improved children's long-term emotional self-control and social adaptability. Children do not only listen to adults, they absorb adults. And this is where Western parenting often struggles. Many adults today believe authenticity means expressing every emotion immediately and fully in front of children. Anger becomes loud, stress becomes visible, frustration becomes constant commentary. But children do not experience this as honesty. They experience it as instability. Korean parenting traditions often approach emotional expression differently. Not through emotional suppression, through emotional timing. There is another Korean concept that explains this beautifully. Gibun. Gibun refers to emotional atmosphere, mood, dignity, and internal emotional balance. In Korean culture, protecting another person's gibun is considered an important social skill. It means understanding that emotions are contagious and that maintaining harmony matters. Western cultures often prioritize personal emotional release. Korean culture traditionally prioritizes emotional responsibility. And while both systems have strengths and weaknesses, modern life has pushed many Western households into chronic emotional overstimulation. Children now grow up surrounded by noise, fast entertainment, constant interruptions, infinite notifications, immediate gratification, but emotional resilience develops slowly, quietly, through repetition. This is one reason many Korean parents emphasize routine so heavily. Shared meals, consistent bedtimes, structured school habits, respect rituals, cleaning routines. These repetitive behaviors do more than create discipline. They create emotional predictability, and predictability creates safety. Researchers at Korea University studying childhood stress regulation found that stable family rituals significantly reduced anxiety markers in children over time. The findings, published in the Korean Journal of Developmental Psychology, showed that predictable routines strengthened emotional resilience even during periods of external stress. The routines themselves were not magical. The consistency was, and perhaps this is one of the biggest differences between modern Korean parenting traditions and much of Western parenting culture today. Western culture increasingly treats parenting as performance. Parents are pressured to optimize every moment. Educational toys, perfect schedules, constant stimulation, public displays of emotional closeness online. Children become projects. But Korean parenting philosophy often treats parenting more like steady cultivation, less performance, more presence. The goal is not constant excitement, the goal is emotional grounding. And ironically, this grounding often produces children who appear calmer, more respectful, and more socially mature. Not because they fear punishment, but because they are deeply aware of connection. Now, this does not mean Korean parenting is perfect. Korea has its own intense pressures, especially around academics and achievement. Some children experience heavy expectations that can become emotionally difficult. But hidden beneath those challenges are valuable emotional principles many exhausted adults desperately need to rediscover. Especially the idea that children learn emotional regulation from the emotional environment surrounding them every day. Not from lectures, not from punishments, not from endless correction, from atmosphere. Think about how many modern children spend their days A stressed parent rushing breakfast, a loud car ride filled with phone calls, school environments overloaded with stimulation, screens during meals, arguments overheard at night. Then adults wonder why children struggle to self-regulate emotionally. But nervous systems learn from repetition, and Korean parenting traditions quietly understand this. A child raised around emotional steadiness eventually internalizes steadiness. A child raised around relational awareness develops social awareness. A child raised around respectful rituals begins to behave respectfully without constant enforcement. This is why small behaviors matter so much in Korean family life. Bowing slightly when greeting elders, waiting for others before eating, using respectful language forms, offering food before serving yourself. These actions are not merely about etiquette. They are emotional training. They teach children to notice other people constantly, and over time, that awareness becomes character. Now, here's the surprising part. Many Western adults secretly want this kind of emotional stability, not harsher discipline, not stricter households, just calmer homes, homes where children are not constantly emotionally overstimulated, homes where routines feel grounding instead of exhausting, homes where respect grows naturally rather than through fear. So how can you apply some of these Korean parenting ideas tonight? Here is your first tactic. Slow down your emotional reactions by 5 seconds. The next time your child spills something, whines, interrupts, or becomes emotionally reactive, pause before responding. Not to suppress emotion, to stabilize the emotional atmosphere first. Children borrow the nervous system of the adults around them, and often the emotional tone matters more than the words themselves. Here is your second tactic. Create one small daily family ritual that happens consistently no matter what. It could be evening tea together, cleaning the table together after dinner, a short walk before bedtime, 5 quiet minutes talking before sleep. The ritual itself matters less than the consistency. Children feel emotionally safer when life contains predictable moments of connection. Now here is the third practice. Teach awareness instead of constant correction. Instead of immediately telling a child what they did wrong, gently ask questions that build Nunchi. How do you think your brother felt when that happened? What changed in the room after you shouted? Did you notice Grandma became quiet? This trains emotional observation rather than blind obedience. And emotional observation creates deeper maturity over time, because ultimately, Korean parenting is not really about creating perfect children. It is about helping children become emotionally aware human beings who understand connection, atmosphere, and responsibility toward others. And perhaps that is why that small boy in Seoul bowed naturally to the elderly security guard before school. Not because someone threatened punishment, not because his mother promised a reward, but because respect had already become part of the emotional air he breathed every day. If this video shifted something in the way you see parenting, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more on how the world's wisest cultures quietly build emotional resilience, subscribe. There's a lot more coming. See you in the next one.